Welcome back, everyone. My name is Jeff Watson, and this is episode number 2 of our Quality Quick Tips series. Today, we're going to be looking at the SDM weekly reports on InfoView. A couple things from this episode that are our key goals is we want you guys to be able to know where to look for these weekly reports, understand what's included in each report, and really be able to use them to help you in your daily activities. Why these reports are important to you guys. What's the deal with these SDM weekly reports? The first thing is that it allows you to know what assessments that you've done on your cases. You can see which assessment that you finished for your cases is in draft, which ones have been put into administrative reopen, which ones are still sitting in revisions required, and which ones are in ready for review. So which ones you've completed that are just waiting to be finalized. So that's kind of cool. Shows you the status for each of your reports that you've done. The reports that are actually included on InfoView, there are a lot of them. Pretty much for each SDM assessment. We have one specifically for the intake weekly. We have the APSS, the FSNA, the reunification, the just basic safety assessment, and then all the different types of risk assessment status reports, including the initial risk assessment, the risk reassessment, and the prevention assessment. We'll explain each of these reports in a little bit more detail once we get into InfoView, and we'll be right back with that. Alright, now we are back with our Internet Explorer window open. We're going to log back into InfoView just like we did before, typing in reports. This will get us back into the InfoView main screen, just like in the last episode. All of the SDM weekly reports for this episode are in the exact same place, public folders and in the priority reports folder. Just single click on both of those and it shows all the reports that are in this folder. I'm going to open up my windows here a little bit so we can kind of see what the name of each one. Let's get it. There we go. So right in the middle are all the weekly reports. They actually start with the date they were updated. I believe they update every Tuesday. So starting right about in the middle, we have the Intake Weekly, APSS, FSNA, Reunification. All those different types of risk assessments are included in that report, and then the safety assessment. So we want to go through some of the different reports. A lot of them are the same, but we're going to start out with a couple of the unique reports. The first one is the Intake Weekly Report, and then from there we'll move down, probably talk about the APSS, FSNA, Reunification, are all very similar. The risk assessment report's a little bit different because you can filter it into each different risk assessment you want to look at, including risk reassessment, prevention, and just the initial risk assessment. And then lastly, the safety assessment report. So we'll go ahead and start with the Intake Weekly Report. We'll pull that up and we'll be right back. Alright, so we have the Intake Weekly Report pulled up. We just right click on it and go to View, and it pulls up the Intake Weekly Report. This is what it's going to look like when you first open it. It'll have some different kind of filters up at the top, but down here at the bottom are the tabs. We'll talk about these a lot on all the different reports, but this is kind of how you navigate each report. All the data is located on a different tab. So this first one, the one that'll open up first, is the initial assessments that are in essentially backlog, the 30 and plus days. So what you can look at here is you can look at all of 2012, which assessments are still out there. Then you can go to current months. If you want to look at November for whichever service area you're in, you can kind of see that way, the current month. What you can do with this is you can filter it all the way down to worker. If you want to look by supervisor, you click right there. If you want to look by worker, go ahead and click on the worker field. Then you can go ahead and select who you are, whatever you want to look at. You can see if you have any assessments essentially that are not done that are over 30 days. So you can see for each service area there's a certain number. The totals are over here on the right. Just kind of a handy way to look at which assessments are still out there. This report kind of flows all the way through the different tabs. If you click on the next one, no safety assessment tied, very similar, the exact same way. Which assessments are out there without safety assessments tied? This one actually is updated to December. Down here, no findings entered, very similar again. There's ones all the way back, this goes all the way back to 2005, where you can see assessments that are out there with no findings entered. Oh, one nice thing that you can do is you can double click on the actual numbers to see which assessments they are. So if I'm over here in the IA 30 plus days, and I'm going to look at, say, I'm a specific worker or supervisor, you double click on any of these numbers. So I want to see all 40 of these southeast ones. Double click on it and it'll show you. This is all the cases. It'll have master case numbers. This screen's actually going to be blocked out when I put this out there, so you won't be able to see the specific data, but trust me, it's there. So we'll go ahead and delete that first sheet that we created, which is fine. And we're right back to the IA 30 plus days. So continuing, we have court pendings the very same way. You can filter down by worker again. Intakes not complete. You can look at kind of that way, why they're not complete, different reasons. Previous week accepted count, how many assessments came in the previous week. Previous week intake with wards. You can kind of see that there. And then all the data listing is over in this last tab. So very interesting report. Should really help you out knowing which assessments you have that are in backlog, which ones of yours don't have safety assessments tied or no findings entered. It's a very handy report. Next, we're going to pull up. We'll probably look at the reunification assessment status report. It's going to be very similar to the FSNA and the APSS. So we'll be right back with that. All right, next we do have the SDM reunification assessment status report. Got it pulled up here. You do it the same way. When you're open and when you see this report, you only see 3 tabs on this one. Reunification assessment's not final. What you look at here is you can see which ones are in draft, which ones are in administrator reopen, revisions required, and then ready for review. So it's kind of a cool way to know where your assessments are at in the timeline. You know, where is it at with your supervisor? Has it been sent back to you for revisions required? It's a very interesting way to see all that. The tab over here is the ones that have been finalized. So as you can see for 2013, there's been over 3,300 reunification assessments finalized. That's very cool. Looking back at their reunification assessments not final, you can go ahead and filter this again by your name. You can look by your supervisor, or even completed by office. You can look in office that way. And just like the last report, if you want to filter it by your name and then double click on any of these numbers to see if any of them are actually your cases, you can do that. And you double click on it and it gives you all the cases that are in that number. So here's the 45 listed for December that are in ready for review still. And this is across the whole state. So kind of a cool report that way. Again, the FSNA looks exactly like this. The APSS report looks exactly like this as well. Next, we'll take a look at the risk assessment status report. It's a little bit different because it does have an extra filter on it. So we'll be right back with that. All right, we have the SDM risk assessment status report pulled up. And it looks just like this when you open it. So what this has here is very similar to the reunification assessment that we just looked at, but it has this extra line of assessment type where you can filter it. If I just want to look at risk reassessment, say I'm an ongoing worker and all I want to look at is risk reassessment, I select that, hit OK, and it shows me just risk reassessments. The default, it's selected to all, so that's what it'll be when you first open the report. But if you're an initial assessment worker and you just want to see the first 2 or just one of them, just select whichever one you want and it'll show you which ones are in draft still, which ones are admin reopen, revisions required, and ready for review. Kind of very similar to the last report. You can double click on any of the numbers to get the actual cases that it represents. And if you want to look at which ones are finalized, you can go ahead and do that there. Looks like all the risk assessment reports, including prevention, risk-re, and risk, spent over 14,000 for 2013, which is pretty cool. So that's just that report. The last one we're going to take a look at is the safety assessment status report, and we'll be right back with that. All right, we have the SDM safety assessment status report pulled up. This is what it's going to look like again when you open it. Should be familiar by now, but exactly the same as before. Draft, administrator reopen, revisions required, and ready for review. And you can filter by your name, supervisor like we talked about, and this one is also able to double click. Like we said, all of these reports are updated weekly. So they update about every Tuesday. They're very handy whenever you want to look and see where your reports are at, where your SDM assessments are at, if they've been sent back to you for revisions required, or if they're still in draft, and you forgot to tell your supervisor that, hey, these are all done. This really helps with the timeliness of SDM assessments just to know which ones are out there. It's a very handy tool. Be sure to use it. Thanks for tuning in for this episode number 2 of our Quality Quick Tip series, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.